Righty ho, neighborinos. This is Keith Bird with a new and short video course for Cybersecurity for Civilians 101. This week's topic is Best Password Practices. Now, if you've seen my first long video, Cybersecurity for Civilians 01, you know that I'm a huge fan of password security. Aside from your email, your passwords are pretty much the main way for bad guys to get into your accounts and get a hold of your stuff. According to dataprot.net, here are some statistics and see if any of these are uncomfortably familiar. 53% of people rely on their memory to manage passwords. 51% of people use the same passwords for both work and personal accounts. 57% of people who have already been scammed in phishing attacks still haven't changed their passwords. 71% of accounts are protected by passwords used on multiple sites. 29% of internet users have more password protected accounts than they can keep track of. And 90% of internet users are worried about getting their passwords hacked. However, the password 123456 is still used by 23 million account holders. Now, on one hand, if I had no conscience, stats like this would thrill me, because it's stuff like this which will help ensure that I will never have to worry about employment for the rest of my life. But on the other hand, I care about non-techies, and I want everyone to be safe. Like an oncologist who hates cancer even though it keeps him in business, I hate stuff like this. Because, as you might have guessed, all of these are really, really bad password practices. Think about it. If you use the same password on multiple sites and the bad guys get a hold of one of them, then what's the next step? If they get a hold of your Facebook password, they'll try that password on Google and Twitter and Chase.com. As I mentioned in that previous video, each password for each site must be two things: unique for that website and randomized. That means gibberish. So how can you do this? Well, if you know me, you know my solution, which is the standard solution that virtually every cybersecurity or IT knowledgeable person out there will tell you. Get a password manager. Now, before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about the alternatives. Some people come up with their own hard-to-guess password or passphrase for every website that they log into. This is pretty hard. I did a count, and my wife and I have about 400 different websites to keep track of. Other people, probably the majority who don't use a password manager, just come up with their own password, which is something like their birthday and their grandkids' names. And they use this for every site that they log into. Obviously, this is just about the worst thing that you could possibly do. Others let their browser save their password for them. And it's true. Google, Firefox, Edge, all will offer to save your passwords for you when you log into something. And I got to tell you, if you're not using a password manager, that's probably the next best option. However, there are a few things to keep in mind if you're thinking about using the browser option. This means that if someone gets a hold of your Google or Firefox account password, then they've got the keys to the kingdom. If I was a bad guy and I got a hold of someone's Google account password, that would be the first thing that I would look for on their account. Another potential issue is that storing your password on a browser means that you can only use that one browser when you are on the internet. And for a lot of people, it doesn't matter to them. They just use one browser anyway, and that's fine. But it could possibly be a little bit less convenient. Also, browsers can't really store stuff like your credit cards or your driver's license or other data like a PM can. Now, don't get me wrong, it's much better than the birthday and grandkids option, but it's still not quite as good as using a password manager, in my opinion. So my recommendation is that when your browser offers to save your password for you, your motto is just say no. So if we're going to use a password manager, which one should we use? Well, if you know me at all, then you know what I'm about to recommend. LastPass. I have checked out the other options, and it has two things going for it. One, it's very easy to use. They are really trying hard to make this as user-friendly as they possibly can. I've looked at other PMs, and no one else is as easy to use. And also, and this is really important to me, it is synchronized across all your devices. Your phone, your laptop, your wife's phone, your wife's laptop, your desktop at work. You sign into LastPass, and all your passwords are right there for you. I know some people don't like this. They want to keep all their passwords on a USB drive that they carry around in their pocket everywhere they go. And I get that. In some ways, that could possibly be more secure. However, what happens if that USB gets lost or destroyed? How do you share those passwords with your spouse or people you trust? I got to tell you, my wife is not a techie, and anything that we use has to be super easy to use. Otherwise, I'm sleeping in the treehouse in my backyard instead of the nice, cozy bed next to my beautiful wife. Now, of course, there are other PMs out there, and if they work for you, more power to you. There are also plenty of PMs which sync across your devices like LastPass does, but like I said, I haven't seen one yet which is as user-friendly, and I haven't seen one yet which had all of the features that LastPass does at such a low price. It's the #1 PM out there, and there are good reasons for that. So anyway, that's my spiel for password managers and LastPass in particular. If you aren't sold on LastPass, that's fine. I just want to get you on a password manager. But if you want to know more about LastPass, in the notes below this video, I have a link to a really great and short video tutorial on how to use LastPass. Even if you're already using it, I'd recommend that you watch it so that you know about all the really cool stuff that LastPass can do, like emergency access in case something happens to you and your spouse or a friend has to have access to your passwords. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Click the subscribe button below if you want to be notified about more videos like this one when they come out. And God bless.